In this demonstration, I'm going to explain how to use the stick trap to monitor red mite populations in a house. Stick trap is a really simple and easy to use method for monitoring red mite, which any poultry farmer can use, and they can use it. You can use it in any poultry house and any system, poultry housing system. It simply consists of a wooden stick, in this case about 12 centimeters long, and that wooden stick sits within a slightly shorter plastic PVC tube, just like this, and then that is then attached to the poultry housing system. And then when you go to score it, you simply remove the stick from the PVC tube, and then you'll check the stick for any presence of mites, and then score the stick accordingly, according to the number of mites present. So all these materials can be very easily bought from most hardware or DIY stores. The stick, you would typically get the stick in a much longer stick, so you'll need to cut them down to size. When you're cutting the sticks, one thing to think about is if you're getting any rough edges, we recommend that those are sanded down, as they can be quite difficult to clean. We also prefer to have the stick slightly longer than the PVC tube. In this case, it's 12 centimeter stick and a 10 centimeter PVC tube. That just makes it slightly easier to remove the tube from the stick when you're doing the monitoring. The eagle-eyed among you would have noticed that we've got a screw in the middle of the stick. Now, the purpose of that screw is just to help it sit tightly within the tube so it doesn't fall out. So you'll just need to adjust that screw so it sits nice and tightly, so it doesn't fall out of the tube, and also can't get pecked out by the hens when it's sitting within the system. For attaching it to the system, there are different methods you can use to attach it. So we've got here is a clip. Again, you can get these from most hardware stores, and they can just simply clip it into the system like that. Otherwise, it's quite a very good technique, is just using simple cable ties. So we've got one attached here, and you just attach it up like that, and then you can sit within the system like that, nice and tight. The traps can remain within the system for the whole laying hen cycle. And in terms of locations, you want to be locating these traps close to where the hens rest at night, and along the pathways the mites will take to get to the hens to have their blood meal. So you need to be thinking about the routes the mice are taking to get back to the hiding places after feeding on the hens, and we want to be intercepting those mites as they take that pathway, so they then go into the traps, and then we can capture them and then score them. In terms of numbers, you want to be, for all these traps, trapping methods, we recommend at least 12 traps per poultry house as a minimum. Any less than that, and you're not going to be able to capture the distribution and you might not get quite such an informative result on the red mite infestation level in the house. We have to remember that the red mite distribution in the house is not homogeneous. Often you'll find there will be clusters in one part of the house, and then no mites or very little mites in other parts of the house. So we want to be having at least 12 traps across the house for all these trapping methods, and we want to be evenly distributing them across the house so we can capture that variation, and so we can get a much more informative result from the monitoring methods. The other things to think about is the positioning of the traps. You don't want them less than 1 meter between each other, as they can influence each other. And the other thing to think about is if there are clusters of mites, you don't want to be placing those traps close to where those clusters are, as you might find the mites will prefer to go back to the clusters rather than going into the traps. So to score these stick traps, you go and walk around the house, get to the trap. You just want to be removing the stick, checking for the presence of mites. If there are mites there, we're using a really simple scoring system, 0 to 4. So 0 being no mites, 1 being few mites, and all the way up to 4 being very many mites. So we're just simply scoring it using that method. You can also just score with a simple presence and absence, so no mites or mites presence, and that can actually be quite useful and informative. But whatever scoring system you decide to use, you need to be recording that. And we've put together some red mite monitoring record sheets, which you can download from the project website, from the MITECONTROL project website. And it's really important to record because that allows you to understand, when the mites first appear in the house, or when you first get a record of the mites appearing in the traps. And that can allow you to put in an early intervention to help control those mite population growth. Also allows you to understand where the mites are in the house, so you can target a treatment. And also, if you are putting in a treatment, it can allow you to understand how effective that treatment was, what effect that had on the mites in the traps. And you can also then start to compare between flocks and between houses. So it's really useful. As that mite monitoring record sheet can be used for all the different trapping methods we're going to talk about today. Once you finish scoring it, you may need to clean the traps, particularly if there's a bit of manure or if there's any mites present. So we recommend just using a bottle brush. You can clean off the traps like that, and then also just clean off the tubes just like this. Keep them nice, and then just replace the traps back into the tubes. In terms of frequency, you want to be scoring these traps once a week to allow you to really keep track and progress on the red mite evolution within the house. So that about wraps up my explanation on the stick trap.